Is it working? There you go. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to come up here and see everybody again. Only thing a couple things I wanted to tell you was that for the first time, I've been going up there for how long? 30 years? Long time, Bob. We've been doing this, and it's the best group of legislators from our area that we've ever had. And it's led by Bobby Payne, and I begged him to run. How many years? 15 years ago, I tried to get him to run. We're so proud, and he's the only one, when you go up there, of the House members, almost the only one, that looks old enough to be any of them. And so they think he's the leadership. All the new ones automatically, so we know he's going to be in the leadership. I'll tell you one thing that he helped on. We do have all the money in the well now for Highway 20. They let the first contract, which starts at Hawthorne, comes this way. They go in segments, so that's good. And they got the next segment starting up down there at the Dunn Street Bridge. It's going to be a new bridge. It's going to go, so you can thank Bobby for coming up and pushing that over. And come on up and tell them the other good things.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Thank you, John. It's certainly good to see everybody. I think John probably is giving me more credit than maybe what I deserve. But I do have some exciting news and some good things I want to talk about tonight. And then I want to give you an opportunity to ask some questions if you'd like to ask questions. So I really just want to do kind of a quick rundown of, well, this was a rundown I got today of House Majority things that we accomplished. But a few things that I personally want to accomplish when I went up there was make sure that we continue to hold to our conservative values, look for tax relief, maintain our constitutional values, maintain our Second Amendment rights. Those things were very important to me. So I'm excited to tell you a little bit about a few of the bills and the committees that I was on. You know, when you arrive as a freshman, you go through quite a bit of training, and I've said this a few times to a few people. When you arrive and you walk in your office, there's not a money tree and there's not a magic wand. Sometimes you wish there were, but there's definitely not that. So I was assigned this year to the Energy and Utilities Committee, which is a natural fit because I've been with Seminole Electric for 36 years. The Oversight, Transparency, and Administration Committee, the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. So that was a great committee. The Pre-K through 12 Quality Committee, and what they know is the Big Commerce Committee. I'll run through the bills that I ran. I'll do those last. Well, let me do those now. Each member of the House gets 6 bills that you can run, policy bills essentially, and then you can run as many appropriations requests as you want. The policy bills for the House members are 6. For the Senate side, they can run as many as 18. Of course, that makes sense if you consider 120 House members and 40 Senate members. That balances out the number of bills that you could actually propose or run. The Senate can actually run a few more than that because they have a little different set of rules. So the biggest bill that I actually ran this year, it was not intended to be the first bill, but it's the first bill I defended on the floor for probably an hour the first day and an hour and a half the second day with 120 members. It was a bill that I've been following for a year. You may have heard me talk about it during the campaign. Was shifting the burden of proof in a stand your ground case back to the state. I believe that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Currently, the way it was that the defendant had to make an affirmation of the fact they were in using self-defense as a mechanism for defending themselves in a case where they were attacked. Senator Bradley and I worked on this together, and so the language that's in the bill is actually the language that I drafted and the Senate adopted. So the good part about it is Senator Bradley, who's worked on it now for 2 years, gets the credit, and I can kind of ease out the back door, which I did in most press interviews.
You got all the work because he got the credit.
That's fine. That's fine.
That's
You know, the fact of the matter is that the bill got done. So the bill is the first bill in the nation that actually shifts the burden back to the state. Of 25 states that have stand your ground. We're the first state to actually get that bill passed, and so I spent as much as 5 hours on the phone with Marion Hammer over 3 months. Marion Hammer is the president of NRA in Florida, was a former president of National NRA. So Marion was very pleased, and so we got the bill done. We shifted the burden, and in legal standard, we shifted not at beyond a reasonable doubt, but to a clear and convincing standard. So we were very proud to get that done.
Bob,
Yes, sir.
could you explain, I've heard it a lot, maybe others, I couldn't understand what that really meant. Could you?
So with civil and criminal, cases, typically what happens is there's standards that you can kind of gauge the ability to defend or prosecute on. So at the highest standard, let's just go through 3 standards. The highest standard would be beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a threshold that has some very specific language with it, but it's a standard that's above 95%. So to convict someone or to prove that someone was innocent in that case, you had to have 95% proof that they didn't do anything. The next standard would be clear and convincing. The lowest standard is preponderance of evidence. The preponderance of evidence standard is where it was before. So the state only had to show by preponderance of evidence that there was a likelihood that you had a prima facie case where you didn't actually defend yourself, but you murdered someone. So if there's a gun involved, there's a body involved, and there's no witnesses, you're going to jail. You're probably going to lose your job. You're going to lose your reputation. You're going to be in jail with probably a minimum of 90 days, even through speedy trial. And I don't think that's right. If someone's attacking me or attacking my family, whether they're home, in a car, and I use self-defense, and I protect myself, I should be immune from prosecution. And so that's what we pursued, and that's where it stands now.
That's right.
So it's the second level of standard of burden. So that's where it ended up. The other couple of bills I ran was one for state employees to get a pay raise. That bill started out with the Police Benevolent Association, and fortunately the governor adopted that philosophy this year, so state employees will get a pay raise. So we were able to set that bill aside. The third bill I had, and John would be familiar with this, was the leadership came to me and asked me to run the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles bill, which is it's an agency bill. Had 12 items on it initially. By the time I got to the final week, it had 40 additional items on it. So it's a tough lift. It's a lift that they often will give a freshman so they can learn the process. And I know I'm speaking in relative terms here, but that bill was dead. I brought it back to life with a senator, pumped some life back into it. We got it back over on our side, and it killed. So if you're not, it died. If you don't understand how bills work, I don't mean to ramble, but if you develop a draft for a bill, and a senator develops a draft, so House and Senate members have drafts for bills, those bills go up through committee processes. And through those committee processes, where you stand in front of committee and defend your bill or tell the committee about your bill, they can amend it through that process, and you can agree to amend it. So you work that bill up until you have a Senate sponsor and a House sponsor, and then they send it across in what is known as messages from one side to the other. So if the Senate sends us a bill and it has certain language on it, we can accept that bill, or we can amend it and send it back. You can balance that bill 2 or 3 times. So there has to be a sponsor and co-sponsor on each side to get something done. So we were very fortunate in the Stand Your Ground bill that we got that done. Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles was such a very complex bill, working with Senator Gaynor, that we lost some ground. He and I agreed after several meetings that what we could accept and what we could not accept. Unfortunately, because of the acrimony between the Senate and House, they didn't exactly agree on the same terms we did, so the bill died. The other 2 bills I ran, or 3 bills, was one, the state revolving fund for clean water and drinking water. That bill is going to be successful. We'll have that funded. The other bill I ran, again, conservative values, is a private property rights bill. I don't believe that the government should intervene on your private property rights. So I ran a bill there that made it through a couple of ag committees, but it didn't get heard because there was a similar bill already in place with a little bit different language. And then that was the 6 bills I had. Of those, I was very successful with having at least 4 of the goals accomplished. So, and one of them was a landmark case really with Senator Bradley that is now, will be recognized nationally. So we're the first state to have that. The other things I wanted to mention was this year the House and the Senate agreed on some pretty dramatic tax cuts. So we cut $180 million in taxes for Floridians this year. There was a bill, and I wish Tim Parker were here to talk more about it, but there was a bill that came up for homestead exemption. You may have seen the paper. I voted against that bill. That was one of the only bills from our leadership perspective this year that I voted against. And the reason I did is I checked with Tim and I checked with other property appraisers in fiscally constrained counties. Fiscally constrained counties, there's 28 fiscally constrained counties in the state. 3 of them are in my district. So the impact of those fiscally constrained counties, kind of hard to say, would be a loss of revenue opportunity for the county, and then that would mean we'd have a loss of services. And I just didn't feel like we were a county that could at least afford to have a loss of services. The other thing it did is it did not have a provision in there for reimbursement back from the state for cities and municipalities. So municipalities in Putnam County alone would lose over $100,000. I didn't feel like it was the appropriate time to implement that type of tax relief for homes that were $100,000 to $125,000 or above. That's the second $25,000 of tax relief. I feel like we can do it in other ways, like reducing tax on leased property, which we did. We did some of that this year. But there's other ways to get us tax relief on a personal level and continue to help our quality of life. Education-wise, we had an increase of $560 million in pre-K through 12. Higher ed had a $522 million increase. Veterans, we had some great things happen for veterans this year. We're expanding veteran services. And of course, these are all contingent on what the governor signs. We provided some new veterans claims examiner opportunities, as well as some workforce training, and then some home and furniture medical equipment opportunities for our veterans. So we all support veterans, again, conservative values, things that we need to support, as opposed to handouts. The areas that I'm most excited about, and I'll run through these kind of quickly and then I'll let you ask questions, but you know, when you go up as a legislator, you want to have good policies, you want to represent your values and the values of your constituents from a conservative perspective, but you also want to make sure that you're fighting for every dollar you can get. Every dollar that we can bring back to our district and to our county makes us that much more successful and has us opportunities for success. So one of the bills I co-sponsored this year with Senator Bradley from Clay County was a bill for springs restoration and St. Johns River restoration and maintenance. The state granted $50 million for that bill throughout the state for that appropriation this year. We got $13.5 million of it. $5 million recurring for Springs and for St. Johns River. Additionally, we had money for the school district for workforce development programs that totaled about $1.3 million. Putnam, Bradford, Union, and Clay are part of 6 or 7 county districts that will receive $15 million in Early Learning Coalition school readiness programs. We'll receive over $14 million for voluntary pre-K programs. There is a facility in Gainesville that services Putnam, Bradford, and Union as far as an organization for rural needs. They're going to receive $650,000. And in the county, the city of Palatka put in a request for infrastructure improvements. Right now it's approved at right at $400,000. We got for the county a request of East Palatka. There's a drainage issue that we need to take care of in East Palatka because of drainage issues and culverts, mosquito-borne viruses. We got over $1.3 million for that. We also got $1 million for our fire station in East Palatka right now in the budget. We put in for some special facilities use funds for PICO dollars for education for Bradford. and we have that right now. They were 6th on the list. We got them bumped up. So that'll be over a 3-year period. It'll be a $39 million ask with bonding. So we have $6.2 million going for that. So I was very excited about the fact that we got those appropriations requests, and they were supported by the Senate. The Senate kept them in play, and so right now they're in the 460 page budget that's going to the governor that's got 4,000 line items on it. So we'll wait to see what the governor does. If he approves that, then I would say we've had a tremendously successful year. So very pleased to have the opportunity to represent and to make sure that we're working hard in Tallahassee to try to get things done for our community. So I can tell you I've been up there 19 out of the last 25 weeks. And for someone to ask you, is it a part-time job, I can tell you that most mornings I was up at 5. I like to be the first person from the house in the office. I was there by 7. And I don't think I went to bed before midnight, but maybe 5 times in that whole time. So so that's why I've got the bags under my eyes tonight. So it's been a rewarding experience, and I just want to thank you for allowing me to serve. So I appreciate it. Questions? Yes, sir.
Now that we've got an energy-friendly president, any chance of getting the coal plant back online for Palaca?
Well, you know, this is a comment from me I'll give you two perspectives. I'll give you the perspective from a Seminole Electric employee. The coal-fired power plant was something that we looked at back in the late 2000s. The cost of that plant at that time was about $1.4 billion, engineering estimate. It went to over $3.2 billion because of the cost of material and labor. In the long run, it was best for the company that we didn't build the plant because we'd been upside down in a plant that we probably would have never gotten dispatched because of all the new environmental pollution requirements. So your question is very germane because we know that we'll have a new EPA administrator, but coal-fired facilities are kind of a dinosaur now. They're kind of going away because of the intense capital investment you need to build those. Now we're looking at building natural gas plants. So you heard our general manager, Seminole, mention last year, and I'm sorry I'm deviating from being a legislator to being an employee. I put my employee hat on. If we build a natural gas plant, we'll build it here.
Yes.
So that's a project I've been working on since 2012. And the decision will still be made by our board of directors, as well as what our future forecast needs are. We believe with the prospective growth of 6 million new people coming to Florida in the next 14 years, a lot of those folks will move to rural areas. We'll have a load forecast increase. We'll have to produce additional power for those members. And we'll do it through natural gas. We'll do it through some solar projects. But solar doesn't fit our profile very well. Real quick engineering study and engineering analysis. Solar projects use the best time for solar is the middle of the day. Our member loads in the morning and the evening. So when you're getting up and getting ready to go to work or turning on the TV or kids going to school, or in the evening when you come home, that's when our load is the highest. So solar doesn't benefit us as a cooperative as well as it does some of the investor owns. And we don't have the funding to diversify our portfolio that much. We will put some solar in. We put 2.2 megawatts of solar in South Florida, but our goal will be to go natural gas, cheapest cost, keep rates as low as we can. So, any questions? Thank you. Other questions? Let's ask a question about the legislature instead about something. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
On what you said about the proposed additional $25,000 homestead exemption that's going to be on the ballot.
Right.
Anybody with any history in Putnam County knows that in 1980, when they passed the original $25,000 homestead exemption, it decimated Putnam County as far as the revenue that was coming in to support the county. And the only reason we got saved at all was Seminole Electric, because when the first unit came on, I think it was 83 or 84,
Right, exactly what
our
I lose.
tax base in the county doubled.
Yes, ma'am.
And so the revenue started coming in. And then when that second unit came on, we jumped up again as far as tax base was concerned. I as a taxpayer, and I know Michael too, you know, you look at it and you say, yeah, we want a tax cut, okay? But this $25,000 thing is not something that's gonna help Putnam County. We lived through it one time, and Seminole Electric saved us.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see that we're gonna have a savior like that out there again this time, so there's no way I'm voting for that $25,000 homestead exemption.
You're exactly right. Yes, ma'am, you're exactly right. And that's why I voted for it. You know, if you recall back you're exactly right in your time frame as far as the units. The units came online, both of them, 83, 84. That first year, we paid $8.3 million in taxes. I remember it very well. So at that time, interest rates were extremely high, extremely high in the early 80s. So that's a nice commentary from you. That was a period of time where Seminole really helped our community and kept us afloat. So I couldn't see us having, we want tax reform, but I think that was the wrong way to do it for our constituents. I heard from folks in Putnam County, and actually last night I was sitting with the House Speaker after the Sonny died and dropped the handkerchief. If you've ever seen that, it's kind of neat. I spent about 2 hours with him and 2 other senators and 3 House members at a restaurant until probably midnight. And he asked me, he said, Bobby, he said, you did a great job this year, but I'm still puzzled about your no vote on my homestead exemption. I said, I understand, Leader, that was a leadership priority, but I have to represent the people that elected me first. So that's what I tried to do.
People don't even realize that back then, when that $25,000, there were a couple of years back in the early 80s, we didn't even have hardly 20%
Right.
of the tax homesteads in this county paying a dime.
Right.
Because they were exempt because of $25,000. I
There-
hate to think what would happen, you kick in another 25.
Larry told me it'd be a 1.1 to 1.2 million impact to our county directly, and then close to $100,000 impact to our municipalities and cities in Putnam County. So I just couldn't vote for it, even if it passed. Now it's on the ballot, of course, 60% vote. And my thoughts are, people throughout the state want to reduce their taxes, they'll probably vote for it. So let's hope we can live through it, and that we have a funding formula from the legislature that gives fiscally constrained counties back a good percentage of that money, so that we don't have the problems we have. So good job.
Bobby, and it's bad, but you know they're gonna vote for it.
Mhm.
You're gonna put this kind of vote, you want less taxes, they're gonna vote for it.
Right.
I imagine, but it does kick in after 100,000. So 25 and then 100, so it'd have to be, and if you look at the homes in Putnam County, that's gonna cover probably 75% of them, so it won't hit as bad as it would in the past, because that was the first 25,000. It's
Right.
still bad,
Right.
but it won't be as bad.
The original bill was drafted as you know, the first 25,000 is for homestead exemption. They tried the second 25 initially at one time up to 50,000. Then the bill this year bumped it from 75 to 100,000. They're having a hard time getting votes. A lot of us disagreed. They bumped it then from 100 to 125,000. So the second exemption is on 100 to 125,000. I don't think it made that much difference with many of the communities. It may in Miami and some of the areas, but we will always get outvoted by Miami and South Florida simply because of the number of representatives they have. So that's why it's so important for us in Northeast Florida, in our rural communities, to work with our other legislators and our senators. So I can't say enough for folks like Senator Bradley, Travis Cummings, Senator Perry, Cindy Stevenson, Paul Renner. We in Northeast Florida recognize the value that if we don't support each other, the money will pass us going south and we'll never see a dime. So, other questions? Yes, sir.
Is there any chance of taking the homestead exemption and exempting the first 10,000 so that everybody pays tax on that first 10,000?
Well, there's a
So that
statute.
everybody's got skin in the game.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. You know, I'll never say never, but we'll have a difficult time probably seeing that. I know how difficult it is to pass bills now. You know, most bills die, or probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10% survive. But if somebody ran that bill, it'd continue to get amended, I'm sure, at some point in time. But that's a great thought. It's a good thought. but I think it's statutorily, we probably couldn't do that at this point in time.
We tried to get that passed, and, I think it was a constitutional amendment back in
Seems
the
like
late
it was.
eighties
Yes,
or
ma'am.
early nineties.
Right.
To tax the first 10,000 and then kick in the 25, and then go back and do the rest, and the people wouldn't vote for it.
Right, as I recall, we had 7,000 platted properties for mobile homes in the county about that time. And so those folks were exempt from paying homestead exemption if they were less than $25,000.
Oh, yeah, if they were already exempt, there was no way they were gonna vote the vote that they had to pay on the first 10,000.
Yes, ma'am, I agree. Other questions? I don't want to take up all of your time, but I do want to say that I've hired a great staff. We had a transition in the first month. We had offices in Putnam County, office in Bradford County, and office in Tallahassee now. Leona Wilkinson is my local staff person. She does a tremendous job. We're blessed to have her. I hired a legislative assistant in Tallahassee right out of law school that John met him. He's very, very sharp. I call him a rock star up there. He does such a good job. And then we hired another lady over in Bradford County to make sure that Bradford County are well represented. So if you ever have a question, if you need to give me a call, please call the office and we'll do our best to get back to you. So thank you very much. I enjoyed being.
Where is your Putnam County office?
Putnam County office is in the same place it's been from Joe Pickett's days at NEFEC, Northeast Florida Education Consortium. Most people will drive right by it, but if you go to the bowling alley and look to your left, going west, you'll see it. So, thank you. Enjoy beer. Thank you.